Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into a topic that, well, it touches almost every parent, every caregiver out there. We're talking about effective child guidance.
Hmm.
And specifically, we want to unpack how you can discipline effectively without automatically going to, you know, yelling or spanking,
Yeah.
those traditional methods. So our mission really is to explore why some of those common approaches, well, they often fall short. And importantly, to give you some research-backed alternatives, stuff that actually works long-term.
Yeah.
Our sources for this deep dive, they come from a great Parent's Guide to Effective Child Guidance. It really distills the research.
And this is so important, isn't it? Because, look, so many parents struggle with this. They feel caught. And yeah, yelling or spanking might, seem to work right now, stop the behavior for a second.
Mm.
But the research, it's crystal clear. Long term, not effective. Worse, actually. It can really damage that connection, that relationship you're trying so hard to build.
That's such a crucial point. And it leads right into something that might be, well, a bit of an aha moment for some listeners. Some things we do instinctively, things that feel like discipline, they might actually be making things worse. Increasing fear or anxiety, maybe even making kids more defiant
Yeah.
instead of teaching what we really want them to learn, like self-control or how to solve problems.
Hmm.
So this deep dive, we're going to offer some, I think, surprising and definitely more effective alternatives.
Exactly. We'll start by looking at what the science, the research, really says about things like spanking and yelling. And then we'll pivot to show how positive discipline offers a totally different path. A much better one, frankly, for both you and your child.
Okay, so let's start there. What do parents often do? Because, we've all been there or we've seen it.
Yeah.
The guide points out things like, well, yelling, obviously, or threatening, right? If you don't stop X, then Y.
Yep, the classic threats.
Or spanking, hitting, and then there's stuff like taking away privileges, maybe using timeouts as forced isolation, even bribing sometimes, for good behavior. These feel pretty familiar, I think.
Oh, absolutely familiar. And that's kind of the point, isn't
Right,
it? They can
yeah.
feel natural. Or maybe it's just what was done to us when we were kids. But here's the critical thing from the research. A lot of these methods, they don't actually teach the child. They don't teach self-control. They don't teach real problem solving. Instead, like you said, they can accidentally ramp up fear, anxiety, or even defiance,
Yeah.
which is, the exact opposite of the goal.
And I think what the research says next might really challenge some deeply held beliefs about discipline. Let's get into what the studies explicitly show. First up, spanking.
Yeah, this one's pretty clear-cut in the research community now. Studies consistently show spanking isn't just ineffective, it's actually harmful. People like Gershoff have done extensive work here. It's linked to increased aggression in kids, also antisocial behavior, mental health issues later on, and, this is key, a weaker parent-child bond. It's a short-term, supposed fix with potentially really serious long-term fallout.
So that's pretty chilling when you put it like that. It's not just that it doesn't work well, it actively creates problems.
Exactly. Aggression,
Yeah.
anxiety, a damaged relationship. It's a lose-lose, really.
And it's not just physical discipline, is it? The guide makes a point about yelling, too, that it can have surprisingly similar negative effects.
Right. And you might think, well, everyone yells sometimes. How bad can it be? But studies, like some by Wang and colleagues, they show that harsh verbal stuff, including yelling, it can actually increase stress hormones in children. Cortisol levels go up,
Okay.
and that can lead to trouble managing emotions, so emotional dysregulation, also chronic fear, and just a negative view of the parent. And again, it eats away at that relationship. I mean, think about it. Even for us as adults,
Yeah.
do we really learn best when someone's yelling at us? Usually, it just makes us defensive or shut down.
That's a really good point. Okay, so if spanking and yelling are out, based on this research, what's in? The guide strongly supports something called positive discipline. What does that actually mean? What does it look like day to day?
Well, connecting it back, positive discipline is fundamentally about building skills and nurturing respect, mutual respect. It's really rooted in understanding, first, how kids' brains develop, and second, how they actually learn to manage their big feelings with us. That idea of co-regulation.
Co-regulation. Okay.
Yeah, the American Academy of Pediatrics, for example, they really emphasize this approach. It involves things like setting clear expectations up front, using calm, related consequences, not punishments, and actively teaching the behavior you want to see.
So it's more proactive.
Much more proactive. And the outcome, it's deeper. It
Yeah.
fosters self-control, empathy, problem-solving skills, and crucially, a strong, secure attachment between you and your child. It's guiding, not just controlling, helping them learn to regulate themselves through your calm presence.
That sounds, well, it sounds ideal, obviously. But what's the biggest hurdle or misconception parents run into when they first try to shift to positive discipline?
That's a great question. I think often parents hear positive and they think it means permissive, like
Mm-hmm.
no rules, no boundaries, kids run wild.
Ah, okay. Let him do anything.
Right. But it's actually the opposite. It's often about more structure in a way and
Mm.
definitely more teaching. The real hurdle is shifting your own mindset, moving from just reacting in the moment, maybe out of frustration, to being more proactive, more intentional, seeing yourself as a teacher in those tough moments.
That takes practice.
It does. It requires patience, consistency. But the payoffs for the relationship and for the child's skills, they're huge. So with that framework, let's dive into some practical strategies, research-backed ones. The first one is about clarity, setting clear, consistent rules.
Seems simple, but yeah, consistency is key, isn't it?
Yeah.
The guide suggests explaining rules before things go wrong, not in the heat of the moment. And keeping them short, age appropriate, like and instead of a whole lecture, it's just we use kind words or hands are for helping, not for hitting.
Exactly. Simple, direct, actionable. Kids need to know the expectations clearly. And then building on that, another really key strategy is using natural and logical consequences.
Okay, consequences, not punishments. What's the difference there?
Good question. It's not about making the child suffer or feel bad. It's about letting them experience in a safe way the direct result of their choices. It's about learning.
Yeah.
So a natural consequence is something that just happens. You forget your jacket, you feel cold. That's nature teaching the lesson.
Right. Makes sense.
A logical consequence is related to the behavior, but it's set up by the parent. It needs to make sense. So if a child throws a toy, maybe the logical consequence is the toy gets put away for a little while. Not losing TV for a week, that's unrelated.
So it has to be directly connected.
Directly connected. It teaches responsibility.
Yeah.
Like the example of a child who keeps leaving their bike out in the rain. A natural consequence. The bike gets rusty.
Right.
A logical one. Maybe they can't ride it until they help dad or mom clean the rust off. See the connection.
Yeah, I do. That makes it about learning and fixing, not just about being punished. Okay, here's one that the guide mentions that I think gets missed a lot. Praising the good behavior more than you correct the bad.
Oh, this one is so powerful. And yes, easily overlooked when you're stressed.
It sounds almost too simple, right? But in the heat of things, we tend to zoom in on what's going wrong.
Exactly. But the research, folks like Moraska and Sanders have shown this, specific praise is incredibly effective. Not just a generic good job, but saying what they did well. Wow, I love how you shared your blocks with your sister. Or thank you for putting your plate in the sink without being asked.
Be specific.
Be specific. That positive reinforcement, it genuinely increases the behaviors you want to see more of. You're shining a spotlight on the good, guiding them towards that.
Okay, that's really practical.
And then maybe one of the absolute most vital strategies, and possibly the hardest for parents, is staying calm and regulated yourself.
Ah, the million-dollar question. Easy to say.
Right. Easy to say, hard to do when your kid is having a meltdown in the grocery store.
Exactly. So, okay, let's get real. For parents listening, when you're in that moment, you feel the frustration rising, you're about to lose it. What's the very first, most practical step you suggest?
That is the question, isn't it? Okay, first step. Recognize it in yourself. Feel that heat rising, the tension. Acknowledge it. Then, crucially, pause. Just pause before you react.
Physically pause.
Physically pause.
Yeah.
Take one deep breath, count silently to 5 or 10. Some experts like Siegel and Bryson even suggest physically stepping back a tiny bit, if safe, just to create a sliver of space.
Okay.
This isn't about ignoring your child. It's about getting a handle on your reaction first. Why? Because of that co-regulation piece we mentioned. Kids feed off our emotional state. If you escalate, they will likely escalate more. Your calm is actually a tool to help them calm down.
So, regulate yourself to help them regulate.
That's the core of it. Your pause, your breath, it sets the stage for a much more productive response than just reacting instinctively.
That idea of co-regulation, it connects directly to another alternative the guide talks about, using time in instead of time out.
Yes. This flips that traditional isolation idea right on its head. It's directly about helping them regulate with you.
So instead of sending a child away when they're melting down,
You stay with them or invite them close. You become their calm anchor in the storm. You sit with them, maybe quietly, maybe acknowledging their feeling. Wow, you look really upset right now. You help them ride the wave of that big emotion.
so you're modeling regulation.
You're modeling it, and you're literally lending them your calm nervous system until theirs can settle down. maybe suggesting deep breaths together. Let's try some slow breaths. You're not abandoning them when they feel overwhelmed. You're guiding them through it, teaching emotional regulation in the moment.
That feels much more connecting than isolation.
It is. And then, once that calm, or relative calm, is restored,
Hmm.
then you can move to the final piece, which is teaching problem solving. This is where the lasting learning happens. It's not just about stopping the behavior. It's about figuring out a better way for next time.
Okay, so after the storm has passed.
Right. When everyone's brain is back online, so to speak, you can ask gentle, curious questions like, what happened there? What could we maybe try differently next time if you feel that angry? Or how can we fix this if something needs mending?
So you're guiding them to think it through.
Exactly. Empowering them to reflect, to find solutions, maybe make amends if needed. They start to own their behavior and build those skills for the future. So, okay, let's try and bring this all together. If there's maybe one core idea, one anchor from this whole deep dive, it's remembering what that word discipline actually means at its root.
Which is?
To teach. It comes from disciple, meaning student or learner. Discipline means to teach, fundamentally,
Not to punish.
not to punish. And that simple reframe, it changes everything, doesn't it? It highlights exactly why harsh methods like yelling or spanking, well, they don't teach effectively,
Yeah.
and why they can actually cause harm instead.
Yeah, what really stands out to me from all this is how these positive strategies, they shift the whole focus. You're moving away from just trying to control a kid's behavior in the moment towards using calm, consistent, respectful approaches that are really about teaching life skills.
Hmm.
And when you think about it that way, these strategies, they don't just benefit the child, they empower the parent too, right? They build a stronger, healthier connection.
Absolutely. Becomes less adversarial, more collaborative over time.
Yeah.
You're building skills together, which leads me to maybe a final thought, something for you, the listener, to just sort of mull over. How might consistently modeling that calm, regulated behavior yourself, even when it's really, really hard, how might that be the single most profound lesson you offer your child for their long-term emotional well-being?
Well,
Your calm presence, your thoughtful response, rather than a reaction.
yeah.
Maybe that becomes their internal blueprint for how to handle their own big feelings as they grow up.
That's a really powerful thought to end on. Your regulation becomes their teacher. Okay, so if you're listening and you want to explore these ideas further, we definitely recommend some great resources. Check out the book Positive Discipline by Jane Nelson. Also, The Whole Brain Child by Daniel Siegel and Tina Payne Bryson is fantastic.
Excellent, yeah.
And you can always find solid information from the American Academy of Pediatrics. Their website is aap.org. Plus, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, has really practical parenting tips on their site too at cdc.gov/parents. Lots of good stuff there.
Great resources.
So that brings us to the end of our deep dive for today. Thank you so much for joining us as we unpacked how to move beyond yells and spanks towards guidance that truly teaches and connects. We hope you'll join us again next time for another exploration of complex topics made clear.